Rodman battling like crazy, but can't quite hold on to it. Hornacek, he and Malone, Rodman and Malone, and Rodman just trips Malone up. They got to call a flagrant here. They've got to call a flagrant. It's the third on Rodman. He and Karl Malone, regrettably, are scheduled to wrestle in one of those bogus events next month. Why Malone wants to lower himself to that is anyone's guess. And Rodman apparently wants to start the wrestling now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lawcast. This week, we're covering a show that I think is underrated, but one of the most historic shows in professional wrestling history. It's Bash at the Beach 98, and one of the greatest examples of celebrity involvement in wrestling ever.
This show is so surprisingly great, and I love it so much. And it so ties into all of the interesting things about WCW. Like, I don't wish that I had been watching WCW in 96. There's no realistic way that I would have been. I don't really wish I had been watching in 97 because so much of it still sucked. 99, 2000, horrible. But this period, where you got celebrities coming in and all the best wrestlers in the whole world are in this company, this period is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've always said no better time to be a wrestling fan than 1998. And like this kind of couple week period here at the end of June and early July was about as good as it gets, with the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Mankind, with Austin winning the title back from Kane on Raw, with Goldberg winning the title from Hogan on Nitro before this, and then this match at Bash the Beach. Like, this was one of the best, 3-4 week periods in the history of wrestling.
Gosh, I wish I had been watching.
God, it was wild. There's nothing like it.
And I always talk about, like, the timelines that go side by side. But, like, it's hard for me to believe, like, I never really realized that, like, Goldberg beating Hogan happened at, like, the same time as the Hell in a Cell match on the other side. It just doesn't feel like this happened side by side.
No, but the reason they did, I think the reason they rushed into Goldberg and Hogan the way they did was Raw did that monster rating for the Austin Kane title switch.
Right.
And at that point, they're starting to get clobbered in the ratings. And they decide, we got to do something to respond. So let's blow our load on our very biggest match possible on free TV.
Which, I mean, yeah, there's obviously a debate to be had there that a lot of people within the company still argue to this day that that's what they should have done. But I think with the benefit of hindsight, even they have started to be like, yeah, maybe not.
We'll get there in a second. But so here's where we left off with WCW. Spring Stampede 98, Sting gets fucked out of the title. Randy Savage is the WCW champion. The next night, Savage, like an idiot, challenges Hogan to a title match and loses after a mess of interference, ends with Bret Hart turning heel and joining the NWO for no reason whatsoever.
Like, do you think they brought him in with the full intention of putting him in the NWO, like, as soon as possible? Because this is only a couple of months after his debut.
This is only a couple months after he cost Hogan the title at Starrcade. So I don't think I think when he comes in, their plan is, we're going to do a roster split. We're going to have Nitro be the NWO show and Thunder be the WCW show. And the vision is Bret Hart will be WCW. But the roster split never happens. And by this point, they have no idea what to do with Bret. And they're just looking for a big moment and a big title switch. So it's like, hey, let's turn Bret heel. Let's put Bret in the NWO.
Do you know when the roster split was supposed to happen?
Sometime in early 98.
Okay. Because Bischoff seems to indicate that so many of his storylines would have made total sense if the actual split had happened.
I dispute that. But yeah, I think that's the vision for the Wolfpack is Nitro is going to be the NWO versus the Wolfpack. Because this has always been the question of, if there was an NWO show, who would the NWO fight? well, you split the NWO into two factions, and then I guess they can fight each other.
I mean, it makes sense, and it kind of works, even so, anyway. So when you split the NWO in half, the problem is more than half of what you have is crappy lame dudes who shouldn't be in the Wolfpack.
Yeah. We'll get to the Wolfpack in a second. I have many thoughts and feelings there.
Oh, yes.
The same night after Spring Stampede, Goldberg beats Raven to win the United States title in an absolutely awesome match.
Yes.
One of the hottest crowds I've ever seen. Just awesome stuff. Goldberg is the man by this point.
Yeah, and Raven too. Like, we gave him so many compliments when we did that, like, Spring Stampede. Like, he is so cool, and they built him up so hard for the Goldberg to run through him and the whole flock. Like, that's a great wrestling moment.
Yeah, it's perfect bookend. Chicken shit heel finally gets his due. It's very reminiscent of the Ultimate Warrior going over the honky tonk man.
Absolutely.
Slamboree, the May pay-per-view, has Bret Hart beating Randy Savage by disqualification in a match with Roddy Piper as the referee. The main event of that show was the Outsiders defending the WCW tag titles against Sting and the Giant. Sting and Giant won after Hall turned on Nash. Just in furtherance of the coming NWO versus Wolfpack storyline, they put Hall in NWO Hollywood just because they need some cool guys too.
That is, it couldn't just be old lame guys versus young cool guys.
Yeah. So the May 4th episode of Thunder is the first appearance of the Wolfpack. That's where Nash, Savage, and Konnan come out together in the red and black. How fucking cool is the Wolfpack?
Okay, let's go into like what makes the Wolfpack the Wolfpack. First of all, the black and red, awesome.
Awesome. The music.
That theme song. Doom, 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 doom.
Yeah.
Like, that's some of the best theme music I've ever heard, and it just was super awesome. But
pretty sick dance beat too.
Yeah, and you can tell because every night Kevin Nash would just come out to it like rocking, like, yeah. And like, I think Kevin Nash is what makes the Wolfpack though, because it's basically a stable in his image.
It's hard to be cooler than Kevin Nash in 1998.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, having Konnan there helps too, because Konnan totally underrated.
Oh, he's so over at this point.
Yes,
he's the road dog of WCW.
He's got 50 catchphrases, and they're all stupid, but everyone loves them.
Yeah, like the crowd is doing his promo with him as he's doing it.
It's just one of those things where, like, those two alone, you got a stable, and then unfortunately, you got a bunch of old guys with them.
Yeah, check out this list of people they add in later weeks: Curt Hennig, Rick Rude, Dusty Rhodes, and Elizabeth.
Is anyone less NWO Wolfpack than Dusty Rhodes?
No, not at all. And like Rick Rude, the late stage of his career is just him being an awkward fit in stables between DX and the NWO and the Wolfpack.
Yep.
Rick Rude with his buzz cut and his suit is just not a good fit for these stables.
No, he just doesn't belong. And like, I can't really think of who else should have been in it. Like, maybe just going outside of like the NWO and recruiting some WCW guys. But like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem like there's that many people who are a good fit for this kind of thing. Like, Luger isn't that bad for whatever reason.
It's too bad Waltman's not there anymore.
Yes.
Like Hall, Konnan, Waltman, and Nash would have been probably a perfect stable.
God, that's a killer stable, yeah.
Lex Luger joins the Wolfpack on May the 25th. Not the greatest fit, but like, he's a gigantic star by this point. Like, he's still mega over.
Absolutely. And there's a moment on this show, I don't know if you notice it, where they're walking down to the ring, and to the beat of the Wolfpack theme, Luger starts doing like his pec jiggling.
Yes, the Masters did.
Yeah, just like boom, 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 boom. Like, what a baby face.
Yeah. And then, big moment, Sting joins them on May 29th, after they teased that he was going to join NWO Hollywood for some reason.
Which would have made no fucking sense.
Wait, why do we think? It's like, wait, why do we think Sting might join the NWO? It's not really even okay for him to be in the Wolfpack after all the shit the NWO's put him through.
I mean, we're still only like 6 months away, like, from the Sting. I've devoted my entire life to crushing the NWO and Hulk Hogan, and then to be like 6 months later, like, yeah, I might join, whatever.
But Sting with red face paint is awesome.
Oh, totally awesome.
And then he grows a really trashy goatee.
This is the last moment when Sting is cool, really.
I think the goatee pretty much killed it.
Yeah, I don't know. Sting with facial hair is not something that should exist.
So this seems like we're building to an awesome NWO Hollywood versus NWO Wolfpack feud, but it never actually happens for some reason.
Like, this is basically the kind of feud that War Games was made for, right?
Yeah.
Just like a big old stable warfare fuck 'em up thing. Like, but it never gets there. But like, I can't imagine how you miss on that.
Yeah, the feud never happens. And I don't know if it's Hogan kind of just got distracted with other things, with these celebrity matches in the summer, and then them bringing in the Warrior. But yeah, just we don't really get this feud. And then at the end of the year, they end up just putting all the NWO back together. We'll get to that another time.
Oh, yes, we will.
The June 8th episode of Nitro, Hogan and Rodman, Dennis Rodman from the Chicago Bulls, attacked Diamond Dallas Page with steel chairs. So Rodman had appeared in WCW kind of throughout 1997. His first appearance was on Nitro at the United Center in Chicago. This is an amazing NWO entrance if you've never seen it. It's, I believe, the first time Hogan came out to Voodoo Child. The show starts. Limousines roll up. The entire NWO get out of the limousines. They're smoking cigars. They're talking shit. The camera tracks with them all the way to the entrance, and they come out to the most ridiculous pop in Chicago you've ever heard.
And I mean, they've got, not only are they cool, and it's a smart town, obviously it always has been, but they got Rodman.
Yeah.
And like, we got to give some context on who Dennis Rodman was at this point.
Yeah. So Dennis Rodman is a key cog in the world champion Chicago Bulls. In addition to that, like, he is a mainstream celebrity. Like, he is probably the second most famous basketball player in the NBA after Michael Jordan at this point.
I'd say so. And I mean, like, all of this stems from, he puts out a book called Bad as I Wanna Be.
Yeah, great book.
In which he talks about like how he fucked Madonna and like there's all this crazy shit in his life. He goes to the book signings dressed in wedding dresses, and like he's just a character. Unlike
his
really
hair
anything.
is 60 different colors. He's got nose ring and piercings. He kicked a cameraman in the crotch. He does all sorts of insane and disrespect. Like, he's just a classic wrestling heel playing basketball.
But he's also an unbelievably great basketball player.
Yes. There's
one of those shit-talking heels that backs it up constantly. And this Bulls team is arguably the greatest team ever assembled.
Yeah, 96-97 Bulls win 72 games, an NBA record at the time that would stand until the Warriors beat it a couple of years ago.
So that's where Dennis Rodman is that he's the second most famous player on the best team ever. Like, he's just, his dick could not be bigger. Like, he's just the happiest person. Everything's coming up roses. He's like publicly banging Carmen Electra. Like, everything's great.
He's a perfect fit for the NWO.
Yes.
Yeah. The bad boy joins up with the stable of cool bad guys. Now, the WWF apparently tried to get him for WrestleMania 13 in Chicago to do something with Gold Dust, but WCW outbid them.
Also, like, that's kind of where we were between the two companies at the time. Like, the WCW puts Rodman with the NWO and Hogan. WWF was like, oh, he's weird, put him with Gold Dust.
Exactly.
Like, what?
Who else? I mean, they should have done something with him in Austin at that point.
Yes, they should have.
Yeah, they weren't there yet. So the previous year at Bash at the Beach, he and Hogan teamed up against the Giant and Lex Luger. That match ended with Luger racking Hogan to get the win. And then at Road Wild 97 in August, Rodman, dressed up as Sting, interfered in the main event and helped cost Luger the WCW title against Hogan. And then he went back to playing basketball for a while. But I should mention, I think that appearance he did on this Nitro is the one where he skipped practice for the NBA Finals to fly out to Denver or somewhere to do Nitro instead.
Yeah, and this is very important because this would never happen in sports today. Like people are so like worried in sports. Like you're not even allowed to go like jet skiing on a lake, much less go do a professional wrestling match.
Yeah. This was a brilliant PR move by WCW though, because this got so much attention.
Yes.
Like this specifically, like you have every AM sports talk radio host like ranting and raving about how Dennis Rodman, disrespected his teammates by going to do a wrestling match instead of practicing.
And all that does is make him a bigger heel for this show.
Yes.
Oh, it's genius. And like you and me were talking before we started about like, what do you think Michael Jordan thought of this whole spectacle?
I'm sure he wasn't pleased.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure wasn't. Luckily, like he's smart enough that he's not making any comment about this. Like I can't remember him ever saying anything about Dennis Rodman at all. Because Michael Jordan wasn't the kind of guy to give candid interviews about any subject.
Yeah, I mean, he tolerated Rodman because Rodman was a key cog in this great team.
Right. Much in the same way he tolerated everyone on Earth.
Yeah. At the Great American Bash in June, the main event is Sting against the Giant. They are the WCW Tag Team Champions. They wrestle a singles match for control of those tag titles. We are getting some weird main events in WCW at this point. This is what happens when Hogan is the champion and only works a couple pay-per-views a year.
Yeah. But even so, like, that's a really, really, really bizarre storyline. Like,
Giant has rejoined the NWO by this point. Sting is in the Wolf Pack, so they are going to fight, and the winner gets both the tag team titles and gets to pick their new partner. The Giant had said if he won, he was going to make Bryan Adams his tag partner.
Oh, God.
What a team that would be.
Like it's so funny to me, too, that, like, WCW is almost at the end of its best time. And, like, the Giant's still here. I always think of him of having jumped way before this. Like, he gets off the ship, like, right before it sinks.
Good time in.
Yeah.
Game 6 of the NBA Finals goes down Sunday, June 14th. This is where the Bulls defeat the Jazz 87-86 to close them out, win the title in 6 games. Second year in a row they beat the Jazz, and third title in a row, Jordan's second three-peat. We've joked about our 90s NBA podcast, but this is going to turn into an episode of that for a second here. This is one of my favorite basketball games of all time. This is such an epic game and such a great conclusion to Jordan's career.
Absolutely. Like, if you were not alive during this, which a lot of our listeners probably weren't, unfortunately.
Believe it or not.
Like, what you need to understand is that the Bulls owned the 90s. Like, unlike any team in any era from any sport that I'd ever really seen before. Like, they basically could have won 7 in a row probably, but they won 3, and then Jordan's gone, and then they win 3 more. And this is the tail end of that one. Meanwhile, teams have been desperately trying to beat the Bulls the entire time. Like, other teams that maybe could have in a different time have been like a dynasty of their own, like the Sonics and the Suns and the Jazz. Like, they can't get past Jordan. And this is basically the last shot anybody gets against him. And there was a sense the entire season that this was the end of the line for the Bulls. Like, if somebody could beat him this time, that was going to be it.
And the Indiana Pacers very nearly did it in an even better series than this final.
Yes, and that was crazy good. Like, that, the whole time is very exciting because the Bulls look vulnerable for the first time.
Yes,
like
a great baby face should be.
Yes, they win only 62 games. The Jazz win the same number of games, but they win 2 against them in the season series, so they get home court advantage. This is the best shot anybody has ever had against the Chicago Bulls. So they go in there, and the Jazz fuck everything up. Oh my goodness, they fuck it up.
The Jazz do manage to get 2 here, but just when it looks like their season control of the series, they lay an epic egg. And what do they score? Like 54, 58 points in that game?
It was not only the lowest scoring effort by any team in a title game in the history of the NBA Finals, but it was the lowest score since like the shot clock era had started in like the fucking 60s. It was horrible. And all of it was laid at the feet of Karl Malone, who was the highest scorer, the best player, arguably one of like the 3 or 4 best players in the world at the time. And like, he was the guy who was supposed to be winning, but he couldn't because he kept getting held in check by Dennis Rodman.
Yep. The mailman never delivered in June, it turned out.
Was it Scottie Pippen who said that?
I don't know.
It's one of the all-time great lines.
I'm claiming credit for it because even if somebody else said it, I arrived at it independently.
Yes, that's so good.
During Game 6, Rodman and Malone get into a scuffle, and Rodman trips Malone. Guess who's on commentary here?
Big Bob Costas.
Bob Costas.
The man who hates pro wrestling more than anyone on earth.
The irony being that Bob Costas actually grew up as a wrestling fan in St. Louis, watched St. Louis wrestling at the Chase. I think was the ring announcer for the War to Settle the Score on MTV. But yeah, turned against wrestling with the Sergeant Slaughter Iraq storyline and the steroid scandal and the sexual harassment scandals of the early 90s. Bob Costas hates pro wrestling.
And Vince McMahon hates Bob Costas.
So, yeah, Costas on commentary, as Malone and Rodman are getting into it, says that they are scheduled to wrestle in one of those awful, bogus events later this month. Why Malone wants to lower himself to that, I'm not sure. Also throwing a lot of shade at Dennis Rodman.
And that is so brutal.
I was listening to this commentary. He was just a dick to Rodman this whole series.
He hated Rodman. But, that's the thing. Traditional basketball people hated Dennis Rodman. They've kind of retconned it since to be oh, he was such a character. No. They hated him so hard.
I, of course, was a Rodman fan.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was a Pistons fan, and he had played for the Bad Boy Pistons. Even though, being a Pistons fan makes me a natural rival of the Jordan Bulls, was still rooting for the Bulls against the Jazz, because fuck Karl Malone.
I was a Supersonics fan, and the Bulls had personally crushed our dreams of a dynasty, horribly. It was over. But even then, I'm still rooting for the Bulls over the fucking Jazz. Nobody likes the Jazz.
Karl Malone and John Stockton, the least likable combination of stars you can imagine.
Completely. Just fuddy-duddy, snobby old motherfuckers.
So the next night after that game's on a Sunday. The next night, they start teasing that Karl Malone is coming to WCW on the June 15th episode of Nitro. Paige does an interview where he's challenging Hogan and Rodman to a match at Bash at the Beach, says, he's got a partner who's going to deliver, that kind of thing.
This is unthinkable.
Yeah.
I can't even think of a comparison to give you of what in the sporting world today of this guy versus this guy, because there really is no corollary. These are guys who had literally killed each other on the court for years, hated each other, publicly hated each other, and they're going to meet in the ring. Yeah. And it's so high profile. Yeah. And they had
right after the highest rated NBA finals of all time.
Yes. They are literally the hottest topic in the conversation of professional basketball. And now they're going to be in the main event of a WCW pay-per-view. I can't think of any time where a wrestling company has been this on the ball with its celebrity involvement.
Yeah, it's so perfect. It's so rare to catch. Usually a celebrity does wrestling at least a little bit after their peak.
Yeah, like Ronda.
Sure. The June 22nd Nitro, we get the official announcement that Paige and Malone will team up against Rodman and Hogan at Bash at the Beach. Again, we can't put over enough. They've got Malone, who's a huge star in the sports world, and Rodman, who's not only a sports star, but a mainstream celebrity at this point.
Absolutely.
Perfect timing. Everything's coming together. Now, the interesting thing is the TV ratings here are not so great. Rodman and Malone are not moving the ratings, and the buy rate for Bash at the Beach the previous year was nothing special. But they will do monster business this year.
Monster business too, yeah.
I think it's just this was getting covered on Sports Center. This was in Sports Illustrated. This was on CNN. This was on every sports talk show host on the radio was talking about, what are these guys doing pro wrestling?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the mainstream slant against pro wrestling was so strong in the 90s. And this is before, because they basically had buried the entire wrestling business with the steroid industry and their coverage of it. like wrestling was over with as far as the mainstream sporting publications were concerned. Like there was no reason to ever talk about it. So like little by little, they had to force their way back into mainstream consciousness with stuff like this and like Tyson. Like they didn't want to cover wrestling. They made them have to cover it because it was such a big deal.
So by this point, Raw is pretty consistently beating Nitro in the ratings. The June 1st Raw, they sweep all 8 quarter hours that are head-to-head, which is the first time that had ever happened. I mean, that's the first time that's happened for Raw in years at this point. To flash back to 1997, Bischoff had decreed that Nitro could never lose a single quarter hour head-to-head with Raw, and now we're at the point where they can't win any.
And it's going to result in some really bad decision making by WCW. And obviously, they should have just calmed down because both companies are doing unreal business at this point. Like, it's not necessary to panic and try to compete because it's not like they're dropping. They're both rising.
No, it's just Raw has risen much faster. But
right.
Yeah, WCW is still selling out arenas. WCW is still doing ratings in the high 4s and low 5s, but it's not enough because they've got to be number one.
Gotta be number one.
So Raw does a huge rating the night after King of the Ring where Austin beats Kane for the title. That convinces Bischoff to put Hogan versus Goldberg on TV on July 6th. This is the July 6th Nitro from the Georgia Dome. Now, remarkably, the very first day they put the tickets on sale for this show, before they've announced any matches, before they've announced Hogan and Goldberg, they sell almost 15,000 tickets, grossing over $500,000 in one day.
That is intense.
Yeah, in one day, they've set the company's all-time gate record.
And like they hadn't even announced the match yet?
Nope. They've announced nothing. It's just Nitro is coming to the Georgia Dome, and everybody in Atlanta bought a ticket.
Okay, so that's the thing, is that they give all of this credit to Hulk Hogan versus Goldberg as selling out the Georgia Dome.
They'd already drawn the house.
They could have put on nothing. Steve Dahl versus the Equalizer or whatever the fuck that match was. They could have done nothing.
Yeah. So originally, they're going to set the Dome up for 24,000 seats, but they end up expanding it to 40,000 based on the demand for tickets. So to explain what this looks like, they drop a curtain at the 50-yard line and set up the stage on the 50-yard line, and they've got all one side of the stadium set up, and they sell it out. They end up selling like 30-something thousand tickets and drawing 40,000 with comps.
That's insane.
For a Nitro!
And like, that's the thing too, is like, I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have been to wrestling events before, like a Raw or a SmackDown or whatever. They don't tell you what's going to be on a television show before it airs, obviously. So you're just kind of going because, hey, I want to go see a Raw, whatever. But for 40,000 people to just be like, oh, hey, yeah, sure, Nitro, I'm sure it'll be fine. That's insane. Like that level of popularity, unheard of.
Yeah, so as they're selling all these tickets, Hogan naturally gets the idea, I definitely want to work a match on that show. Like, I want to be able to take credit for this. So Hogan volunteers to wrestle Goldberg in a dark match. What do you make of that?
I mean, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of those things that happens at TV shows. It's like you get like the kind of great match after the lights go off. And it's just for the live fans, and then maybe like Goldberg hits him, but he doesn't get a clean pin or something like that. Like that's the kind of thing they do on most shows. Like I can't tell you, I went to like 3 or 4 shows during like the early thousands where I just saw Austin versus Rock in like the main event after the show went off the air, where they just like fucked around for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure Hogan, he was going to put Goldberg over here. He doesn't mind doing a job in a non-televised match.
But how does it become televised? Because that changes everything.
Panic move after the big raid-in, and I'm sure Hogan... Here's the thing. Hogan is forgoing a massive pay-per-view bonus here by doing this match on TV.
Yes.
Like, he's probably... If he wrestles Goldberg on pay-per-view, that's going to do a gigantic, like that. The floor there is probably like 750,000 buys. Like that's a multi-million-dollar payday for Hogan. So I assume he got a nice bonus for doing this match on Nitro.
Because if you remember, like from his contract, and maybe he had signed a new one since then, but he gets like basically a gigantic portion of whatever they sell over the average. Which I mean, so he's giving away millions,
regardless of the terms. Yeah, he's going to get a ton of money for this.
Yeah.
So that's another way in which they give away what probably would have been the biggest pay-per-view in wrestling history to this point. And then they probably paid out Hogan on top of it. It's crazy. It's nuts. Like, it's indefensible. This should be Starrcade. Like, at the Georgia Dome, in front of a sellout crowd, doing 1 million buys for Goldberg winning the title from Hogan.
And I guess, like, it doesn't have to be Starrcade, because as we've established, WCW doesn't give a shit about Starrcade. But, I mean, if you want to build Halloween Havoc, you can build it for many more months. There's not really a feud between Goldberg and Hogan right now.
No, they just announced on Thunder on the Thursday before this. Airs on Thursday, matches on Monday. J.J. Dillon comes out and announces on Monday Goldberg is going to wrestle Hogan for the title.
And like it's completely out of storyline, because in the past, like, Hulk Hogan has jumped through crazy hoops to avoid having to wrestle anybody he didn't want to wrestle.
Yeah.
That's the entire point of having a stable.
Yeah, and now here he's just willingly going to wrestle the man.
They show a video package on this show where, like, Hulk Hogan just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll face Goldberg, I'll whoop his ass, no problem.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
I mean, it's a great spectacle. So they're in the Georgia Dome. There's 40,000 people there. Goldberg wrestles Scott Hall earlier in the show by Hogan's order. He beats Hall. Main event. Hogan, controls most of the match. Curt Hennig comes out to interfere. Malone and Page show up. Malone nails Hennig with the diamond cutter. That distracts Hogan. He turns around. He takes the spear. Goldberg hits the jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. Goldberg wins. Goldberg, the world heavyweight champion. One of the loudest pops I've ever heard. Amazing commentary from Heenan and from Schiavone. Just a perfect moment all around.
It is unfathomably a great moment. Like, one of those moments in wrestling history that anyone who watched it will remember forever. For all we're saying that, like, they did it wrong and they missed out on all this money, all of that's true. But the way this comes together, and the moment when he lifts up Hogan and everyone realizes, oh shit, Hogan's not going to get out of this, it's real. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah,
it really is.
The whole time you're just like, this is going to be a DQ. Every Nitro main event in this era is a DQ. Goldberg's going to win by disqualification, and they'll hold off on the big Goldberg title change until down the line.
And the whole time the match is going on, you're like, all right. And he hits him with the spear. It's like, all right. But when he lifts him up, the crowd, you can just hear them come up like, wait a minute, are you serious? Yeah. I don't see the NWO guys here.
Yeah, everybody's looking around like, where's the interference coming from? Oh shit, it's not. He hit him.
And then he hits it and pins him, and like the ovation is wild.
Roof comes off. Heenan's commentary, like, Heenan just takes over the play-by-play from Schiavone here. Like, Heenan's just like, no, I got this. My moment. He's like, come on, get him now. This is it. This is your career on the line, kid.
And the classic line is, he's got him up. Yeah. Like, I'll always, like, I get chills just thinking about him saying that.
This place will explode when he gets him up. Oh, he's got him up! And then he's just like, the only undefeated champion in the history of professional wrestling. And Schiavone's sign off, he's like, for Bobby the Brain Heenan, for Larry Zbyszko, Mean Gene Okerlund, Tony Schiavone, good night, America, Goldberg's the champ.
God, that's so great.
I will never forget. Yeah, so this moment, I'm watching this with my brother and a bunch of his friends and a bunch of my friends, and a bunch of the dads too are into this. Even if everybody's into this. This is cool for everybody at this point. Goldberg is that over.
Yep.
So the ratings for this match, they do a 6.91 rating for the main event. with over 7 million viewers in 5 million homes. And if there were as many parties as there were like at my house that night, then there were a whole lot more than 7 million viewers.
God, if only they had given more notice.
Yeah.
Like, even if it had been like, it'll be on Nitro in 2 weeks. Because, like, man, just like the number of like watching parties for this.
An 11.8 share rating.
That's holy shit.
That's wild.
Yeah.
The only higher rated match in cable history to this point is the Sting Flair match at Clash of the Champions. And that averaged a 7.1 over the 45 minutes in a totally different television environment.
Exactly, where there are many fewer things to watch.
There's like 5 channels at that point.
Yeah, it airs at a totally different time. Like, it's very different.
Yeah, it's on a Sunday instead of a Monday. Like, yeah, totally different setup. But yeah, this is an accomplishment. Like,
Ratings
this is
like this
as mainstream as it gets.
Yeah, ratings like this flat out don't exist anymore.
Yeah, you can't do it anymore.
No, nothing will draw 7 million viewers except like the Super Bowl.
Yeah. The Nitro replay that night, which airs from 11 to 2 a.m. in the Eastern Time Zone, did an 8.35 share.
Fuck. And that's just from people being like, I'm sorry, what happened?
Yeah, that many people stuck around to rewatch the show, or like, they worked like at a bar or something, got home late, and like turned it on to watch it.
Man, that again, the era before
probably
DVR.
A lot of VCRs recording too.
Oh God, yeah. Because that's a moment you're going to want to remember forever.
Yep. So, I mean, as we talked about, this is an insane panic move. Like, this is so dumb.
It's a disaster.
You can just ballpark this. How much money if Goldberg and Hogan are going to do like a minimum of 750,000 buys, that's like a $25 million pay-per-view. Company gross $12 million. Maybe Hogan gets a $3 or $4 million, but still, this is a $10 million profit for the company, and they give it away.
And it's not just that. Like, everybody focuses on that, and rightly so, because that's a big chunk of money they're not going to get. But it's also every storyline that you were going to do before Goldberg becomes the champ. Everybody you were going to have Hogan face. The Wolfpack versus the NWO. Everything you were going to do to build Goldberg up to that spot. Him running through NWO members one after another until he gets to Hogan. 6 months of build. All of that money gone in an instant for nothing.
Just because they wanted to win the ratings battle. And I'll just go back to, they were already going to sell out. Like, they were already going to sell 35,000 tickets for this Nitro without this main event.
And, like, look, like, this, you could convincingly point at this as the beginning of the end for this company.
There's not a lot of highlights after this.
They jumped the shark so hard on Goldberg, and he's not ready. He's not. Not for this.
No, his title run sucks.
They have no idea what to do with him. There's no plan.
No opponents lined up.
There's
no story.
Yeah, the only memorable match he has as a champion is against Paige, who's a babyface. Like, there's no stories lined up for this. It's not supposed to happen this way.
No, the big story they have set up is NWO Hollywood versus NWO Wolfpack. But that doesn't happen. Instead, we get all these Hogan celebrity matches. We get the basketball match here, and then the Jay Leno match at Road Wild. And then they bring in the Warrior, and like that's Hogan's feud for the fall. And like this is what dominates WCW TV instead of Goldberg's title run.
And that's probably okay if Goldberg's not the champ, if Hogan's the champ.
Oh right? Yeah. No, it's gotta be Hogan avoiding Goldberg and Goldberg having to run through the entire NWO to get to Hogan.
Yeah, this entire time on the undercard of Jay Leno and Hulk Hogan is Goldberg smashing through Randy Savage, smashing through Curt Hennig, smashing through everybody.
Yeah, Goldberg and the Giant is a pay-per-view main event.
And then like you have Goldberg win World War III, where everyone in World War III is Wolfpack or NWO Hollywood, and then there's just Goldberg, and he wins. So Hogan has to face him.
Yeah.
That's
and then Starrcade's probably going to do 1 million buys.
Yes.
Just like that. It would have been that easy. So Goldberg was going to team up with Kevin Green, NFL superstar, against the Giant and Curt Hennig. They switch it to singles matches with Green facing the Giant and Goldberg defending the title against Hennig. Just as a trivia note, Goldberg and Green played together for the LA Rams in the early 90s. In a promo, Kevin Green said Goldberg was his roommate in training camp. Could be true, I don't know.
That's a pretty good story, honestly.
Yeah.
Kevin Green is one of those people that you never think about now, but I've never seen a guy go from oh, I'm a football player, cool, I'm a wrestler now, and just be as good as fast as he was, faster than Kurt Angle.
Yeah, he absolutely looks like he belongs in the ring. It's really shocking he just didn't go into wrestling full time when he finished his career, but he's had a very successful coaching career.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like $1 million in his match here, absolutely.
So just to explain where WCW is, they are super dysfunctional but super successful.
Yes.
They just drew 40,000 people for Nitro. This pay-per-view does 600,000 buys. It's still one of the biggest non-WrestleMania pay-per-views of all time. This is not a failing company at all. It just looks unsuccessful in comparison to the WWF.
And that's the thing. Think about all the desperation that they go through afterwards, like bringing in Vince Russo, changing everything up, hot-shotting everything. It's important to realize that this is the second most successful wrestling company in the history of the wrestling industry up until this point. It just so happens they're going up against the first most successful wrestling company in history. That's the only thing. They're so incredibly good at this point, and they just can't see it.
Ooh, so here we are. It's Sunday, July the 12th, 1998. We're at the Cox Arena in San Diego, California. There's 10,095 people in attendance, 9,031 paid for a $314,842.50 gate. Yes, it was reported to the cent in the Wrestling Observer. And $100,275 in merchandise.
Wow.
Again, San Diego, not what you think of as a huge wrestling town.
Yeah, when you're this hot, everything's a wrestling town.
This show does a staggering 1.5 buy rate for approximately 600,000 buys. That's way up from the 0.89 they did the previous year for the Hogan-Rodman tag match.
Yeah.
Second biggest pay-per-view in WCW history, behind only Starrcade 97. Company gross on this would have been $9 million. Rodman and Malone were reportedly each paid a combined $1.25 million, which is really not bad at all when you think about it. So,
and it's so not about the money for both of them. It really isn't.
No, they're just having fun out there.
Yeah, you get the sense that Malone would have done this for free.
Yeah. So on commentary, we've got the team of Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, Bobby Heenan. I thought they were pretty good tonight.
Yeah, actually, they were really great, aside from what they were wearing.
As always, WCW announcers do not know how to dress.
No. And, when you wear a Hawaiian shirt and you're a certain kind of guy, you just look like an asshole.
The opening package highlights Goldberg, Hogan, Rodman, Malone, and Page. We come to the arena, and the crowd is absolutely buzzing. Really loud Goldberg chants. Schiavone, Heenan, and Tenay talk about the main event and Goldberg's title defense against Curt Hennig. And then they throw to Mean Gene at the entranceway. He shills for the hotline. Opening match, we've got a Ravens rules match between Raven and Saturn. Saturn has broken away from the flock. He is on his own and feuding with Raven. They dub in Raven's WWE theme over his Nirvana ripoff theme. Raven is backed up by Lodi and Scotty Riggs of the flock. I love how terrible a stable the flock is, but it works with Raven.
I mean, they're all terrible, useless, no-talent assholes.
That's Kidman's good. And, Saturn was good and Canyon was good. But, by this point, we're stripped down to just the jabronis.
I can't believe Lodi has, a years-long career in WCW.
He's the Cruiserweight champion, a year after this.
That is madness. And that's not just because the Lenny and Lodi tag team is one of my least favorite things in wrestling history. Still, even so, there's no talent there.
Saturn jumps Raven in the aisle, so we're starting fast. In the ring, Saturn slams Raven. He goes for a top rope leg drop, but misses. Always cringe when somebody misses a leg drop off the top rope. That's just not a smart bump to take.
Did you ever hear the legend about when Johnny Stamboli did a springboard to the floor?
God.
Leg drop?
And he missed his tailbone?
Yeah, he destroyed his tailbone. And he was like, oh no, I didn't know that was going to happen. And then agent in the back is like, well, yeah, dumbass.
There's a reason nobody's ever done that before.
Yes.
Raven follows up with a double underhook suplex. Raven sets up a table on the floor, tries to suplex Saturn out of the ring onto it, but he gets crotched on the top rope. Saturn goes for some kind of springboard move, but ends up getting dumped to the floor. Saturn recovers. He hits Raven with a chair, then puts the chair on Raven's head and hits him with a springboard leg drop. How awesome is Saturn here?
Saturn has a move set like a creator wrestler here. It's like, I want to be able to
not be doing this stuff.
Yeah, I want to be able to do everything. Let's go.
Lodi and Riggs get into the ring. Saturn suplexes both of them. Saturn goes for a springboard. He misses and accidentally knocks out Nick Patrick. Saturn then puts Raven on a table on the floor, sets up another table on top of it. Obviously, this would kill Raven if he hit it because the table would spike him in the chest.
Yeah, but like literally the crowd is just like, oh, Raven's on a table, okay. And then when he puts the second table on top, they're like, oh my God, what? What is this now? Like, they wake up completely.
Kanyon pulls Raven out of the tables. Saturn comes off the top rope and smashes through both tables.
It's actually pretty awkward the way that they do it, because Kanyon gets Raven out, and then they wait like a full beat, and then Saturn jumps.
Yeah, it seems clear that he would have seen him get out.
But, I mean, obviously they have to make sure that Raven's not in there or he's going to die.
Saturn... So Kanyon briefly celebrates with Raven, but then hits him with a flatliner onto a chair. I don't really know why Kanyon helped Raven there.
Like, why would you save him and then hurt him? Like, did you want the chance to hurt him first? I guess.
Riggs throws Saturn into the ring. Raven covers. Saturn kicks out. Raven hits his drop toe hold into a chair. Saturn recovers to hit a brutal Death Valley driver on Riggs.
Spikes him.
Yeah, right on his head. Raven sneaks in, hits the even flow DDT for the pin. I thought that was a really great opening match.
Oh, it's amazing. Like
these guys both rule, and neither of them does a whole lot after this.
And that's such a shame because
this
Raven
company has so many stars.
Like this, like as we go through this entire show is packed full of people who could main event places.
A lot of them did.
Yeah, just from start to finish. And there's nowhere for any of them to go because the glass ceiling has like 50 people in it.
Yeah. I mean, they have so many people who drew money somewhere.
Yes.
But a lot of them did not draw money in WCW because the opportunity never came.
True.
Mean Gene then brings out Eddie Guerrero, who will face his nephew, Chavo Guerrero, in a hair versus hair match tonight. This is some of the best stuff of Eddie Guerrero's career here.
Like, we covered, like, basically, like, the beginning of this feud, or was it, like, a little ways along already?
Yeah, they were still in the early stages at Spring Stampede.
But this is still, like, the evilest Eddie Guerrero. Just,
so
like,
hateable.
In your head manipulating Eddie Guerrero.
Next up, we've got Kidman versus Juventud Guerrera. Juvi is maskless. He lost a mask versus title match to Chris Jericho in February. What do you think of taking the mask off Juvi? I actually think it was a good move.
I think it was a good move, too. Like, he's an incredibly handsome man. Let's just
really good-looking dude.
Absolutely. And, like, he was one of those guys who, like, the second his mask came off, he just had way more personality.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of guys wear masks, and then when they lose the mask, like, they don't know what to do without it. Like, they're just used to wrestling, like, super stone face. That was never Juvi. No. Juvi is just all personality all the time.
Yeah. He's a great seller. He's got a great, like, he never gives up gimmick. He was absolutely one of my favorite wrestlers at this point.
Yeah, like, he's it's really just him and Ray of the cruiserweights that really could have moved on and up higher, I think. Like, I think that there was room for Juvi at, like, the TV title, United States title level.
Yeah, it's just such a tough roster to move up on.
Yeah.
Look at who they've got. But,
Absolutely.
I mean, look, he's doing great on his own here. He, unfortunately, I don't think he ever really gets a run with the Cruiserweight title, or at least not until way too late.
I feel like he's always in these matches and never wins them.
Yeah. There's a huge flying plancha by Hoovy that takes down both Kidman and Lodi. Back in the ring, Kidman hits some kind of wheelbarrow German suplex. This was awesome. Kidman then alley-oop powerbombs Hoovy into the guardrail. We're like 2 minutes into this match, and they're killing each other. Kidman misses a dive off the apron. He gets backdropped by Hoovy. Hoovy then follows with a sunset flip powerbomb off the apron.
Those never don't look brutal.
Just splat is the sound it made.
Gross.
Back in the ring, Kidman blocks a super Frankensteiner attempt and hits like a spine buster lowdown or D'Lo Brown's finish, the sky high off the top row.
And like the announcer spent like the next full minute trying to figure out what to call what he had just done.
Yeah. Kidman goes for a German suplex, but Hoovy lands on his feet. He hits the Hoovy driver for 2. Kidman turns things around, goes for the shooting star press, but Hoovy moves. Hoovy then hits a 450 splash for the win. I mean, just exactly what you're looking for from a WCW Cruiserweight match.
Absolutely killer. And like the fact that they don't have a match like this on every WCW pay-per-view is ridiculous because they have 20 guys sitting in the back who could wrestle a match, maybe not as good as this, but still super good. And like every single night, it seems like they're doing nothing, and then you just see like Alex Wright show up.
Yep. So next up, we've got Chavo Guerrero Jr. against Stevie Ray. Eddie has managed to arrange it where Chavo has to wrestle this match against Stevie Ray and then wrestle Eddie later on. So the storyline is Chavo has gone crazy and Eddie is furious with his antics. So Chavo is like messing around, dancing. Then he offers Stevie a handshake. They shake hands, and Chavo gives up. Match over. That's awesome.
That is so awesome.
I love, there's a second where the crowd's like, what? And then everybody figures out at once and pops.
And like, it's such a smart moment from Chavo, and like the first really savvy moment that he shows ever.
Pretty much the only one.
It's just like, oh man, Chavo gets it. He's going to kick Eddie's ass for once.
Oh, and Eddie is so furious. Like, just the anguish on Eddie's face is great. So we've got our hair versus hair match, Chavo Guerrero against Eddie Guerrero. This is a match months in the making. Eddie has been abusing Chavo all year. This match has everything, especially ass biting.
Ass biting.
You know a match is over when one dude bites another's ass.
Especially if it's a bare ass, which is basically Ric Flair's whole gimmick after a while.
There's a lot of stalling and antics here. I think Eddie was hurt. I noticed he didn't really seem to be in great condition here. Feels like
a lot of sense.
Yeah, this match is not what I was expecting it to be. It's still decent, but nothing special.
Yeah, and I mean, Eddie Guerrero could fuck around and not take a bump and still put on a better match than half the people in the world.
Yeah. Eddie takes out Chavo's knee with a drop kick, then drop kicks him in the back, and then hits a back suplex. Tenay talks about Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr losing the hair versus hair match at When Worlds Collide. Heenan's like, how do you know that? And Tenay's just very quietly like, I was there.
And Heenan's like, oh, and just drops it.
Like Tenay was, in fact, on commentary for that show.
Yeah. Oh, right. This company ran that show.
That is one of the weirdest things that ever happened.
It is. That's true.
We're going to have to cover that sometime.
God, that's such a great show from start to finish, too. Yeah. So good.
Heenan claims he's never seen a hair versus hair match, and I can't immediately dispute that off the top of my head. They didn't really do these matches in the WWF.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a Southern thing, and it started in Mexico, and it was also a bit of a Southern thing. And he was always more of a Northern guy.
Yeah, AWA and then WWF.
Yeah, Fern wasn't doing these, so maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I can't think of a hair versus hair match that happened in the WWF while he was there.
No, I can't either.
And I can't think of one WCW had done in the previous couple years before this.
Wait a minute. Didn't Brutus the Barber Beefcake have something to do with hair versus hair?
I mean, he did shave dudes' heads when he beat them.
Okay, but I don't think that's the same thing.
Not quite. Chavo takes over. He slams Eddie. He goes to the top and gets crotched. Chavo slams Eddie again. He goes for a frog splash. Eddie gets his knees up. Eddie hits a tornado DDT, which is Chavo's signature hold. Eddie then brings scissors into the ring and tries to cut Chavo's hair while the match is still going on.
Everything from this point on is crazy dangerous.
Yes. Like, we've got scissors, we've got clippers. Like, what are we doing here, guys? This is a wrestling match.
Yes.
Eddie misses a frog splash. Chavo hits the tornado DDT. Then he gets the scissors and tries to cut Eddie's hair. Eddie rolls him into a small package for the pin. Chavo then proceeds to shave his own head.
I guess the idea of what this was that Chavo like loses his mind or something.
After he starts riding Pepe the horse.
Yeah, okay. So he goes crazy and he's like starts shaving his head in front of Eddie and daring him to shave his head. And Eddie's like, "Oh, what?" And
Eddie's just kind of creeped out by this and leaves.
But like Chavo Guerrero is not a great actor. So it comes off way more like Chavo's just being super passive aggressive. Like, fine, you want to shave my hair? I'll shave my hair. Fuck you. You can't shave my hair. I'll shave it. And he starts throwing stuff around, and they stay on it for like 5 minutes. It's really weird.
Goes on for, and then they have to clean the ring up because there's hair everywhere.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got Disco Inferno versus Konnan in a delight of a short match.
It is.
This is like a perfect 2 minutes here.
This is a murder squash.
Disco comes out with his tag team partner Alex Wright, the Dancing Fools, or the Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights is a great name.
Yeah. They both dance. Then Konnan comes out to an enormous pop. Dude, the Wolf Pack here.
So over. And like, look, Kevin Nash walks down to the ring with Konnan, and he is in basketball shorts and a shirt and a basketball shirt.
Yeah.
Does not give a fuck.
Sunglasses, probably been pounding beers all day.
And he just is so cool, it pisses me off.
Don't you wish you could be this guy or just hang out with him?
Just for like 5 minutes.
How much could Kevin Nash charge people to hang out with him if he wanted to?
To this day, I would pay an easy $1,000 to hang out with Kevin Nash.
God. I don't really know that there's a feud here. I think this is just to show off the Wolf Pack.
And it does.
Disco throws Konnan to the floor. Wright takes some cheap shots, so Luger shows up and torture racks Alex Wright. The referee is distracted by this. Nash gets in the ring and just sticks Disco with the nastiest jackknife I've ever seen.
It's so great to watch a man in basketball shorts and tall socks
so casually
climb to the top over the top rope, casually jackknife a guy, climb back out.
Yep, and gets his payday for it.
Yep.
What do you think Nash's payoff for this was?
Probably at least $15,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say 25.
My God.
The show did really well.
And then Konnan locks on like the ugliest looking.
Konnan's shit submission holds are so great.
Like the Tequila Sunrise is a cool move, but like Konnan, sometimes it seems like Konnan doesn't give a shit if he hurts the guy or not, because he like kind of just falls over and just shoves his knee into Disco's back and just twerks it.
God, I love this. We could do an entire show on how cool Kevin Nash looked here.
Absolutely. Everybody, even like Lex Luger looks a little bit cool just because he's with the other guys. And he racks Alex Wright for like a full 2 minutes.
I would have loved if they had done like 3 Wolfpack guys against like the 3 biggest NWO Hollywood jabronis they could find.
It's like Vincent,
Brian Clark, and like Brian Adams, and like Scott Norton or whatever, and just like let the Wolfpack go to town.
Just squash the shit out of them.
Yeah, just like everybody hits their finishers.
Like, see, that's what this
bring
was.
Bring in Dusty. Let him do some punches. Next up, we've got the Giant against Kevin Green. Giant's in control early. He's just doing like chops and chokes and that sort of thing. Green gets in a short comeback with some chop blocks, but Giant just demolishes him with a choke slam for the pin. I don't know what more you would have done with that. I thought that was fine.
No, and Kevin Green shows some incredible fire and like energy while he's doing it. And like the whole match, like it feels more even than it is because Kevin Green doesn't really get in any offense, but it doesn't feel like he got squashed, even though he kind of did.
Yeah. And like you realize they were going to do it. They have to put this match together on like 4 days' notice.
Right.
Maybe they had 2 weeks after they decided to do Hogan and Goldberg for the title on Nitro. But like normally, if you've got a non-trained wrestler in a singles match, you want to practice that match for weeks and weeks in advance.
Especially if you're as green as these two are.
Yeah, like the Giant isn't an experienced wrestler either. He's like 2 years in the business.
Yeah, so he's the vet here. So you're going to want to keep it short.
We then get a recap of Dean Malenko attacking Chris Jericho on Nitro. J.J. Dillon had barred either man from attacking the other. As a result of Malenko's actions, he has lost his title match tonight against Jericho. So Jericho doesn't have an opponent.
This storyline,
This is brilliant.
other than like the turning of Sting, is maybe the best one from this era. It's so great. And Jericho's such a dickhead. Like explaining to Malenko like how his dad probably cheated on his mom all the time when he was on the road.
Yeah. Stinko Malenko. Boros Malenko. Oh, I hated Chris Jericho so much.
Such an and like Malenko during this time,
This
it's
is
the
by
only
far
time
the best Dean Malenko. This is the only time Dean Malenko was charismatic. Just
Yes.
that simmering fire within him.
and that's what works. It's like obviously he's a quiet guy, but you just kind of feel the charisma from him here. It's like the anger.
And he had fire when he would beat up Jericho.
Right. He never had it when he would be in a wrestling match with anybody else. It just Jericho brought that out.
Yeah. So Jericho comes out to the ring in a top hat and with a cane. He says he's going to tap dance for the crowd. What a douchebag. Brilliant. J.J. Dillon comes out, says he was able to find an opponent on short notice for Jericho. Dillon says the guy hasn't wrestled for about 6 months, but, he's a local San Diego guy. And Jericho's like, okay, sure, bring him out here. I got it. Let's do a no DQ match. I'm going to work this guy over good. Dillon's like, okay, no DQ. We'll do it for the title. Okay, let's do it.
And it's fucking Rey Mysterio.
Yep. So he's been gone for 6 months. He's been recovering from knee surgery. In kayfabe, Jericho put him out by hitting his knee with a toolbox at Sold Out in January.
Oh my god. And like I don't read the match listings for these shows before I watch them because I like to be surprised. Like I popped when Rey Mysterio came out. I was like, I get to watch Jericho Mysterio? Yes.
This should have been such a great long-term WCW rivalry.
Oh my god. Every match they had was amazing.
Yeah. I think I put it over before, but they had a match in WWE that's one of my favorites ever. I can't remember. It was...
Is that the mask versus title?
The mask versus title match, yeah.
Yes.
Just absolutely brilliant match. This is pretty damn good, too, although Ray doesn't appear to be all the way back here. But he is in fantastic shape.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. Jericho almost immediately goes low, takes out Ray's knee. Jericho tries to run. He runs up to the set, climbs up a lifeguard chair, and gets pulled off. Mysterio then climbs up the lifeguard chair and comes off with a Hurricane Rana off the chair onto sand. This just struck me as a horrible idea.
Yeah, we haven't really mentioned yet that there's a gigantic pyramid of sand in the middle of the arena here. Like, it's one of those elaborate WCW sets that we talk about all the time, and it looks great.
At the beach.
Yeah, but, like, he literally, like, he goes head first into this sand because there's just not enough room.
And you've got a guy recovering from a knee injury wrestling on sand. It's just not smart.
Not smart, man.
Back in the ring, Ray gets a crossbody off the top, but Jericho rolls through into a 2 count. Jericho then power slams Mysterio off the top rope. Ooh, he brings a chair in, hits Mysterio's knee with it. Jericho puts the chair on Mysterio's knee, comes off the top rope trying to destroy his knee, but Mysterio rolls out of the way. Mysterio then hits Jericho in the knee with the chair, then a running drop kick into the corner, a face buster by Mysterio. He comes off the top rope looking for a Hurricane Rana, but Jericho blocks it and locks on the Lion Tamer. Mysterio,
spot.
Love that spot. Mysterio makes the ropes. At this point, Malenko comes down the aisle. Jericho goes for the Lion Tamer again, but he gets distracted by Malenko. Mysterio then counters with a Hurricane Rana out of the Lion Tamer for a pin, and we've got a new champion.
Everything about this is so great. Like, you get the title on Mysterio, he gets his revenge on Jericho. Jericho is terrified of Malenko. Like, the moment Jericho loses, he's like bolting off, but he's limping because his leg hurts. And he goes through the curtain, and Arn Anderson, fucking Billy Bob, badass Arn Anderson, is standing there like, nope.
Yeah. And Malenko catches up to Jericho and beats the shit out of him.
And I love that Arn's role there was just to be like, nah, you're not getting by me.
Not happening. So I guess this is the first tease that Malenko is going to be in the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, I didn't realize that he wasn't already in the Four Horsemen. It's kind of random otherwise,
no,
right?
Flair's not back. Yeah, so I believe this is the first tease that Malenko is going to be a Horseman.
I mean, if you were watching the storyline, like, it would make total sense to put him in the Horsemen. It's just a shame that once he got in there, he didn't know. Nothing happened with it.
Nothing with the Horsemen. It's a big thing they missed the boat on.
Yep.
Next up, the WCW World TV title, Booker T versus Bret Hart. How hard did you pop for this?
Again, I don't look at the match listings, but when I heard it was Booker T versus Bret Hart, I was like vibrating in my seat. Like, what is this show? This is amazing.
Yeah. And this is just like what WCW is capable of. You can just like randomly draw these names and they're against each other, and there's going to be great matches.
Like, holy shit, yes. Now, of course, this isn't Bret Hart, really.
No.
Like, he's not himself anymore.
He might as well be wrestling in jean shorts here.
Yeah. And, I mean, Booker T's also got a bit of a knee injury, though you wouldn't know it when you see him in the ring.
Yeah, this is Booker's last pay-per-view match of the year. He's gone after this until 99 and, like, never really recovers his momentum, unfortunately.
God, that sucks, because he's so over here, too.
He's going all the way here. Like, again, at this point, he's the right guy to beat Goldberg.
Like, absolutely. Like, in fact, that might be the saving grace, is because you said that there was nobody for Goldberg to face. But if you spend a couple months building up Booker, this is the guy. These are your two baby faces for the next 5 years.
It should probably be Booker taking the title off Goldberg at Starrcade.
Yeah, just some sort of respect deal between the two best wrestlers on the show.
How many does Booker T if he beats Goldberg as a baby face and wins the title? Like, yeah. And he absolutely had the tools to do it.
I have never seen I've seen thousands of wrestling matches, all walks of life, all decades, everywhere. I've never seen anybody move in the ring like Booker T does here.
Just a guy that tall who's so fluid and jumps like him.
He's the smoothest I've ever seen. Like, he does stuff where, like, he gets up off the ground and is already leaping like 4 feet in the air before, like, no muscle on his body moves. I don't know how he's doing it.
So, the way this was set up, Bret interfered on Chris Benoit's behalf in the 7th match of the Best of 7 series between Booker T and Chris Benoit. Bret was trying to get Benoit to join the NWO, so he helps him win the match. Benoit, like an idiot, tells the referee about the interference, so got himself disqualified, lost the 7th match. Booker and Benoit then had another match at the Great American Bash. Booker won that one and then went on to beat Fit Finlay for the TV title that night. You know, that Best of 7 series is legendary, and it should be. Those matches are fantastic.
Absolutely, every single one of them. Though it might be part of the reason why Booker is getting this knee injury. If you recall, you can't make wrestlers wrestle this often all the time. Like, Benoit kind of goes through this in 2001 in WWE, where he's wrestling 5 matches a week, on pay-per-view weeks, and it's too much, man. They were
having these matches on house shows too. They were having hard 20-minute matches on house shows.
Eventually, you're gonna get hurt. That's how it happens. Like it happened to Jeff Hardy with all those ladder matches. It happened to Benoit. If you can't get a rest and you're going too hard, like nobody's immortal. Like nobody's gonna be able to deal with all of that beating all the time. And like you're just mortgaging your future with Booker T.
And I can't really think of what Benoit did for the rest of '98, so I think he may have gone down with an injury too.
I mean, he eventually joins the Horsemen too, right?
He's in the Horsemen. I mean, like I guess he just kind of gets lost, and they have no actual plan.
Yeah, I think he's like in a tag team with Malenko by the end of the year.
Yeah, which good tag team, but throughout '98, it felt like he was on the way to much bigger things.
Right.
Booker's got a huge knee brace on. He's about to go away with that knee injury. This is his last pay-per-view match of the year. Booker is in control early, both inside and outside of the ring. He hits a big spine buster, but Bret pops up and clotheslines Booker over the top to the floor. Bret slams Booker into the ring post. Booker comes back with a spin kick, then the axe kick, a flapjack, and the spinneroonie, but he doesn't quite pop up the way he normally does. He's either actually just hurting or selling the knee really well.
Right.
Booker then hits the missile drop kick. Bret gets a foot on the ropes. Booker goes for a suicide dive. Bret nails him with a chair, and that's the DQ. I mean, definitely not the match. I mean, can you imagine like healthy Booker T versus peak Bret Hart and how great that match could have been?
That would have been incredible. But I want to give Bret credit here for actually trying, because he takes everything from Booker. Like he's like, give me your whole moveset, kid. Let's go.
Yeah. This is what Bret says he wanted to do in WCW, was he just wanted to work with their young talent, and for some reason they wouldn't put him against these guys.
And I mean, every once in a while he would get a chance to, and it kind of backs that up. Like he wrestles like a 20-minute match with Benoit around here, right? Yeah,
he had a really good. I mean, the famous match with Benoit is September '99, but he had a really good match with Benoit and Nitro on the way in here.
Yeah. I mean, it really seems like that is what he wants, but they don't know what the fuck to do with it. They just put like the U.S. title on him and just let him go, like the Cena way. Like that would have been great.
Bret hits Booker with chair shots to the knee and then puts him in the figure four around the ring post. They are doing a good job getting Bret over as a heel here.
Yeah, the fans are shitting on him.
Stevie Ray then just kind of leisurely walks down to the ring, doesn't attack Bret, just lets Bret walk away, and Stevie refuses to let the doctors help Booker.
To the point where like he's making Booker walk on his bad knee. Yeah. And they're just like, Booker, Stevie, you got to let us take him. He's so hurt. And Stevie's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, what ends up happening here is Stevie Ray ends up, like, taking over as TV champion from Booker T. They have some lame legal term they use for it, and I can't remember what it is. But, like, Stevie's a heel and ends up joining the NWO for some reason after this. I don't know why anybody thought Stevie Ray and NWO Hollywood was a good idea.
Because everybody has to join NWO, I guess.
Yeah. Then we get a Goldberg hype package, and it's time for Goldberg to defend the world title against Curt Hennig.
Now, before this match starts, they do like a promo with Curt Hennig in the back where they're like, why the hell do you think that you might be able to beat Goldberg? And his whole thing is like, I got the lungs. Like, I'll make him run around. We'll have a long-ass match. He won't be able to contend with a long match. He's never had one before. Like, I'll make this a 25, 30-minute match. I just want to set that in your head before the match starts.
How great did Curt Hennig look here?
Amazing.
Man, he's in great shape.
This is the only time I really remember him looking credible for like a main event anything during this era.
Ooh, gigantic pop for Goldberg.
Yes.
His forehead is bleeding, presumably from headbutting a locker because he's a dumbass.
Say, if you're a super green wrestler who's not great in the ring, maybe you shouldn't concuss yourself before your matches.
Goldberg is just like a legitimate crazy person.
Yes. Yes, he is.
Hennig gets in some offense early. He goes to the top. Goldberg grabs him, throws him off with a press slam. Hennig manages to pick Goldberg's ankle and work his leg. He hits the perfect plex. Goldberg kicks out. Spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3. Goldberg goes over in 3 minutes.
And that was kind of the tone of Goldberg matches while he was champion, was the other guy would have a plan, he would execute his plan, hit his finisher, it would not even close to be enough, and then Goldberg would run through him.
Yep.
So just like complete burial of whoever he was up against, but it was great to watch.
Yeah, I was at a Nitro while Goldberg was champion where he was against the Giant, and the Giant choke slammed him like 10 seconds into the match, and Goldberg kicked out and speared him and jackhammered him for the pin.
Yeah, like the idea was Goldberg is invincible. You cannot harm him.
And this is the perfect way to use just these quick squash defenses against credible people. I love that.
I don't know why they don't do this more. Like, it's not unsatisfying.
No.
Like, if you went to a pay-per-view or you bought a pay-per-view and you're like, I want to see Goldberg versus Curt Hennig. You're not like, I want to see Goldberg in a 30-minute match against Curt Hennig.
Nobody wants to see that shit. Same way nobody wants to see Brock Lesnar in long matches. Or Ronda Rousey in long matches.
If they just made every Brock Lesnar match 3 minutes, we wouldn't be nearly as sick of his shit as we are.
Yeah, because then he would only have to hit 3 suplexes instead of 18.
Yeah, and then it'd be like, well, who the fuck can go 5 minutes with him then?
Yeah. All right, it's main event time. We've got Karl Malone and Diamond Dallas Page against Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman. This match just feels so gigantic.
It really does. And, like, they take their sweet-ass time with it, too. Like, the entrances take,
this starts with, like, 45 minutes left in the pay-per-view.
And, like, I looked at that, and I was like, there's no way these guys get 20 minutes, is there?
Oh, boy, yeah, they do.
This match takes up as much time as the last 4 matches combined.
This match is fucking horrible.
It's the worst.
Oh, man, after all this hype, like, why would you make this match so long? This is like a 10-minute match tops.
Yes. And it could be a very, very good 8-minute match, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Like, all we want to see is, like, Malone get his hands on Rodman, Rodman be a shithead, and Dennis Rodman take the diamond cutter.
And, like, did we get that last one at all?
Does anybody get diamond cut in this match?
Oh, he did. I think Malone does get Rodman. That's right. I was trying to remember. Yeah,
both Rodman and Hogan take the diamond cutter, but then they win anyway.
And then the ref takes the diamond cutter, which was the best bump of all of them.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Yeah, he sure did.
Rodman comes out looking like a piece of shit in jeans and a t-shirt.
He looks gross.
Jeans tucked into his boots, like sleeveless shirt.
And he's one of those athletes who, when they wear basketball
skinny
clothes, look totally normal, but in regular clothes just look like weird aliens. He's like all arms and legs.
Yeah, he's so lanky and skinny. He's got a bandana and sunglasses on. He did not seem like he was all there during this match.
He was clearly drunk.
Like,
Clearly.
I don't think there's any getting around it. Then Malone and Page come out together in matching gear, and they look so cool.
Karl Malone.
Oh, my
God.
Here. How old is Karl Malone here?
Oh, God, I want to say
He's
like,
gotta be in
like 36?
35.
Yeah.
Just about to turn 35.
And, I mean, he is in unreal shape.
He's in better shape than any of these wrestlers on the show.
Bill Watts watched this and would have mortgaged his fucking house to get him as a babyface.
Yeah, ironically, Karl Malone is, in fact, from Louisiana. Probably grew up a fan of Mid-South wrestling.
Bill Watts is just, like, stomping around his house watching this, like, where was he? I never found him.
Oh, God. Karl Malone. Yeah. Like, as much as I dislike Karl Malone, yeah, he was great here.
And he is ripped to shreds, and he and Paige are, like, matching stuff, and they got, like, choreography and stuff.
Yeah, they do, like, this thing where they spin around and point to the crowd and do the diamond cutter sign. Like, this is cool.
Like, they've actually worked on their shit.
Yeah, no, like, Malone clearly trained hard for this. Like,
yeah.
Both, like, in the weight room and in the ring. Like, he was ready to go here.
He wanted this so bad.
Yeah, no, he is having the time of his life here.
And look, whatever criticism we're about to direct to this match, it's not about Malone. Malone really tries his best.
Now Man, what a big moment this is for DDP. Like, kind of glossed over here. Like, yeah, DDP's been in a pay-per-view main event against Randy Savage, but that was a B pay-per-view nobody cared about. Like, he's getting the biggest match of the year here.
And like, it's so funny the way it happens too. It's like literally he is at like a Utah Jazz game, and like Karl Malone sees him and throws up the diamond cutter, and like Paige throws it back, and then they talk after the game, and that's how this match happens, guys.
DDP is always the connect.
Always.
DDP is at the center of everything.
He knows everyone on Earth. He knows you. He knows me.
So I've heard that Hogan really wanted to have Savage in this match instead of Paige. Savage's knee is messed up, so he can't do it, so it's a moot point. It's better for the company that it's DDP, right? Like, make DDP a star.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like, it's
Savage is going to be at this point. Paige still has room to grow.
And it's going to pay off big time down the line. I mean, this is going to be part of what gets DDP ready for Halloween Havoc against Goldberg. DDP is going to win the title in the next year. Like, it makes DDP a main event player.
So I heard some Utah sucks chants from the fans. I'm going to freestyle that this is because they're in San Diego and it's mostly Laker fans, and the Jazz had swept the Lakers out of the playoffs in '98.
I'm going to freestyle that it's because nobody likes Utah and never did.
Okay, so the bell has to ring here, unfortunately. And they don't have a whole lot. There's solid like 5 to 8 minutes of stalling at the start of this match where like Hogan and Rodman won't get in the ring.
And like, I genuinely like how this starts. Like, Rodman gets in the ring and he refuses to let anybody touch him. Like, he's doing all of these dickhead heel antics, and I love it. Like, he's so good at that. Like, he's just teasing Malone. He's just like, you're never going to get to touch me, man, ever. He refuses to take his sunglasses off.
They finally, Paige and Rodman, lock up. Paige throws Rodman down. The crowd chants, boring. They are correct. This is boring.
Yeah.
Rodman hits his one move, the arm drag on DDP. The greatest arm drag this side of Ricky Steamboat.
This is a good time to ask. Did you ever watch Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Wrestling, the reality show?
No, unfortunately.
I did. I watched it every episode. It was amazing.
Rodman was on there, right?
Yep, Rodman was on there, which seems unfair because it was like
he's actually wrestled.
It was like, I think like one indie guy and like one indie girl and like a bunch of nobodies, and then somebody who's actually main evented multiple pay-per-views.
But also he's like 50 at that point.
Yeah. But I mean, I think he wins because I mean, he just has the most experience and everything. But that was so funny to watch. And like Brutus the Barber Beefcake is like the Al Snow on Tough Enough.
Yeah, this is like Bizarro World Tough Enough.
If you can watch that show, please go and find it. It is hilarious.
Evil Tough Enough.
Evil Tough Enough.
This is like one of the TV shows Eric Bischoff produced.
And that's why he's back in wrestling now, guys.
Rodman goes for a leapfrog, and I don't even know how to explain what happened here.
It doesn't work.
He just like lands flat on his ass and kicks DDP in the gut.
He's so drunk, man. He just is.
Oh, man. Hogan and Rodman tag in. Hogan and Malone tag in. Hogan gets heat on Malone. Hot tag to Paige. He takes out both Hogan and Rodman, but he gets cut off by Rodman. This is really a tragedy of hubris that we're going to try to work a 20-minute match where you've got Hulk Hogan really having to carry the load for the heel team in 1998.
See, that's the thing. It's like Hulk Hogan in 1988. This was his match. It's like stall, 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 weight belt, stall, 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 interference.
Yeah, that's all he's got.
Like, he only took like 5 moves in the entire year of 1998.
He's pretty blown up, just like having to like put DDP in a front face lock for a while.
So why the balls are they doing this long a match?
Yeah,
why?
20 minutes, I think you got to have more guys in there. Like, I think you got to have it be like a 6-man and have like Bret Hart in there on the heel team and like put another baby face in there with Page and Malone, just so you have more guys who can work.
Right.
But I think that would dilute the match. I think the answer is you just do this 2-on-2 match and you make it quick and to the point.
I guess that just bears the question, like, which match on this card should have gotten 25 minutes then? Because it should have been this one.
I guess just do more matches, I guess. Like, you can make a list of who's not on this show. Like, there's no Benoit, there's no Ultimo Dragon, there's no Malenko. Like, you got plenty of guys who wrestle who weren't on this card.
And if you look at this show, too, like, the match times on these matches are just like 2 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, like, you don't have to, no Sting, no Luger, no Nash. Like, you left off a ton of big stars here, so you could have easily made some more matches if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like, do you think this was a Hogan call to have this match be, 30 minutes long? I think they were gunning for 30 minutes and went home early because this pay-per-view ran short. It was only about 2.5 hours long.
Do you think it was like some kind of pride thing for him to be like, yeah, I carried 2 basketball players to a 30-minute match because I'm the best?
It just doesn't really sound like Hogan.
No, it doesn't. He's
Usually
not that
Hogan's
kind of guy.
Like, yeah, let's get out of here and get some room service, brother.
We already sold the tickets, brother.
Yeah, room service still rules.
Like, yeah, that I don't understand. I don't understand the thinking here. I don't know why the basketball players would want to wrestle for that fucking long. Like, I just don't get it.
Page takes the heat. Hogan gets off his weight belt and whips Page with it. So he's out of offense now. Rodman puts DDP in a front face lock. Hogan goes for the leg drop and misses. We get the hot tag to Malone. He hits some clotheslines and some body slams. He's looking really good in there.
And then Dennis Rodman asleep on the ring.
Oh, my God. Yeah, they try to shoot around this. But, yeah, Dennis Rodman is, like, literally taking a nap on the top rope.
Oh, God. I just imagine Hogan looking over and seeing that and being like, God damn it.
Yeah, I think that's about when Hogan's like, all right, let's get out of here, brother.
Yep.
Big boot from Malone. He tags in DDP. Diamond cutter on Hogan. Malone hits Rodman with the diamond cutter. Referee gets distracted, putting Malone out of the ring. The Disciple comes in behind the referee's back. He hits DDP with a stunner, and Hogan gets the pin. Just a terrible match. And, like, why have Hogan and Rodman go over here?
I'm searching for words in my brain other than Hogan's got a pose. Like, I don't.
Has gotta be. Rodman's gotta take the diamond cutter here.
And I mean, he does.
Yeah, like Rodman's got to get pinned here by Malone. That's your highlight.
I mean, I'm gonna guess Rodman just refused to do it because this is another situation where Bischoff is in way over his head. Because, like, how can you tell Rodman what to do? You don't have any control over him. And just not show up.
Hogan's not going to take the pin either.
Yeah. And it literally means nothing to Rodman to just no-show this entire pay-per-view and destroy your business, Whereas Malone's definitely going to be the one who does more business with you.
The Disciple using the stunner gets a big pop because it's Steve Austin's finish.
The balls of Brutus fucking Beefcake doing the Stone Cold Stunner.
It's really too bad that we never got a segment where Steve Austin kicks the shit out of Brutus Beefcake for stealing his finish.
Too bad we never got a segment where everyone in the whole wrestling world beats up Brutus Beefcake.
Oh, man. Malone then hits the Disciple with the diamond cutter. Then somebody throws a beer, and it, like, nails Beefcake in the face. Did you catch this?
It clocks him right in the eyeball, man.
What a great throw.
Man.
Dude, like, this guy should have gotten a try. Whoever threw that should have gotten a tryout with the Chargers afterward.
Or try out with the prison team, because you're throwing bottles of beer? Come on, man.
I hope it was a cup. I don't think they served beer in bottles for this reason, because they knew fans always threw shit at the ring.
I hope so.
Dude, he just hit him perfect.
It was an amazing shot.
The only better one I've ever seen is the guy who nailed Ron Artest with that beer in Detroit and set off the riot at the Palace.
That guy. Okay, let's deviate into our basketball podcast once again. The guy who started that must have been so fucking proud of himself when he was like, "I clocked Ron Artest right in the head."
I know a guy who claims he knows the guy.
Really?
Yeah. Of course, the guy Ron Artest ends up beating up is not the guy who threw the beer.
Which is even better.
Just some innocent guy gets his ass kicked by Ron Artest.
But yeah, just the sight of the basketball player marching into the stands to beat some ass is one of the greatest images in the history of sports.
Yeah, like it was basically a super hot professional wrestling angle.
Yeah.
Didn't build anything, though, because everybody got suspended afterwards and the Pacers were broken up.
God, Vince should have brought him in for something. The bad boy of basketball, Ron Artest. Meta world peace.
It's kind of shocking that didn't happen.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it.
Malone then hits Charles Robinson with the diamond cutter. That was great.
The even better thing was, like, Karl Malone is a very tall man.
Yeah.
Charles Robinson is a very short man.
Karl Malone is like legitimately a foot taller than Charles Robinson. So
Malone could just kind of like bends down to get his arm around his head and then just falls down.
Yeah. Malone and Page then leave through the crowd, and then we get just a ridiculously long post-match celebration with Hogan and Rodman and the Booty Man. They're just like stalling for time here.
And they're not even really celebrating. They're just kind of standing around.
Tired. Like, that match was the most epic feat of athleticism they can imagine.
And like everybody involved, like the crowd is super done with this. Like the finish was so shit and so disappointing. And like all the people that they like are gone. And like you can just see the crowd leaving while they're celebrating.
Yeah. The announcers talk for a while too. Like, again, this show still runs short. According to the Wrestling Observer, the match was supposed to be longer, and God only knows what they had planned.
Ugh.
I wish we had video of the practice sessions, since we know DDP scripts out all of his matches in advance. Assuming Rodman did not show up for practice.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
That would fit his reputation. So yeah, what do we make of this show overall? I thought this was the main event sucked, but like I thought this was a great show.
Oh God, it was so. I was so happy. At the end of it, I texted you and I was like, "Man, I am so thrilled that for once we get to watch a show that's actually good."
Yeah, just like this. I mean, this just shows the potential of WCW because it doesn't feel like they're even scratching the surface of this roster. And at this point, you would have thought this company's good for the next 10 years with all this talent. And instead, they're out of business in 3.
Absolutely.
And how did that happen? Well, next week, we're going to cover one of the key incidents. As we continue our mini Bash at the Beach anthology, we've got another of the most infamous nights in wrestling history. It's Bash at the Beach 2000. We're finally doing a Vince Russo WCW show.
Guys, oh my God, WCW in the year 2000 is the most hilarious, inexplicable mess in wrestling history. But this show, would you say that that no moment in wrestling history more pisses off hardcore fans than this one?
Vince Russo bro, what if Jarrett lays down for Hogan? Then I do a promo on that big, bald son of a bitch.
Just like, we're going to have to talk so much about what the fuck led to all.
What was supposed to happen versus what actually did. Like, it's just one of those things that's like shrouded in mystery.
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody's got a different story here. I don't know. I've kind of surmised what I think happened. But yeah, it's nuts. Like, wrestling turns real, I think. Like, I think this actually did. Like, I think this was a genuine double cross. I don't think this went the way they had agreed it would. So, yeah, and we've got a bunch of other insane WCW 2000 stuff, including a graveyard match between Vampiro and the Kiss Demon.
The Kiss Demon. That's a
Daphne
thing.
versus Stacy Keibler in a wedding gown match.
In which nobody wins unless we all win.
Everybody wins that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Goldberg versus Kevin Nash for Scott Hall's contract.
And the humorous thing that Goldberg does with it.
The Misfits in Action versus the Filthy Animals.
So we've gone from the Wolfpack in the full NWO to these are the staples that we have now.
Filthy Animals.
The Filthy Animals.
All that and more next week. It's Bash at the Beach 2000. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week.